This video is for those affected by thyroid diseases, which can dramatically affect our metabolism and metabolic health. So over the next few minutes, we're going to go over what these thyroid diseases are, what causes them, and which 5 things you can do to improve your health if you are dealing with a thyroid condition. Hey, I'm Dr. Anna. I'm a medical doctor, and over the last year, I've posted hundreds of videos online talking about healthy living and healthy eating. And I'm here to share with you what I've learned from my career. So let's start with talking about what thyroid disease really is and what it isn't. So we know that thyroid diseases affect millions of people around the world, and it can dramatically affect our metabolic rate because the thyroid gland, which is located in the anterior part of your neck, controls our metabolism. And what can happen is that in different conditions from different causes, the thyroid gland can either produce too much or too little of the thyroid hormones. So really, to tackle this topic, we kind of have to separate which type of thyroid disease we are talking about, because whether it's a hyperthyroid condition or a hypothyroid condition, there might be completely different symptoms that someone's experiencing. So let's start with the hyperthyroidism. This is where the thyroid gland is overactive and it is producing too much or too high a level of thyroid hormone. Now there's different causes for this, and one of the most common causes is Graves' disease, and this is an autoimmune condition causing a hyperactive thyroid. So the symptoms that somebody's going to experience with hyperthyroidism are things like decrease in their body weight, high amount of energy, palpitations or a fluttering that they feel in their heart, maybe getting hot and cold, sweaty. And what's going to happen is this person experiences a lot of jittery symptoms and sometimes anxiety. Now, on the other hand, we have hypothyroidism or hypothyroid conditions where the thyroid gland is not producing enough thyroid hormone. And the most common cause of this is another autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So this type of a person is going to experience symptoms that are sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum. They might have weight gain, fatigue, constipation, feeling extremely lethargic, depression. Everything in their body seems to slow down. Now, of all the thyroid conditions around the world, however, the most common one is called a simple goiter. And this is kind of famous because it ends up producing a very large sized cavity on the front side of somebody's neck. The thyroid gland gets very swollen and large. And this is seen in some countries around the world that have classic nutritional deficiencies. Why? Because a simple thyroid goiter is going to be most commonly caused by iodine deficiency. And this is going to be found in many different foods like eggs, milk, different types of fish like haddock, cod, for example. As well, this would be found in mineral water. And this is a main reason why a lot of salt in many modern countries around the world is called iodized. They add the mineral iodine to salt because it's one of the easiest ways to guarantee that anybody can get enough iodine, because most people use salt in their cooking and in their diets overall. And then we do have other conditions of the thyroid that are a little bit more severe, things like thyroid cancer. And thyroid cancer is really several different types of cancers under this umbrella. Unfortunately, it's not that rare. It is the most common type of endocrine cancer we know, which means a cancer that comes from an endocrine or hormonal gland. Now, because that's a whole topic unto itself, we're really not going to talk about cancer anymore in this video. We are instead just going to talk about the thyroid gland function and how you can improve your health if you're dealing with one of these conditions. So before we dive into these healthy habits for somebody experiencing a thyroid disorder, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications. Your subscription helps us grow this community and allows us to get our message out to more people. Okay, from the top, what are the healthy habits that you would want to adopt if you're dealing with a thyroid disorder? Now, when I was doing some research for this video, I actually came across a super interesting article. This article was written by some scientists in Italy, and they wanted to explore what are specific nutrient recommendations or nutrition advice for somebody dealing with a different type of thyroid disorder. So what they did is they broke down by different type of thyroid condition, specific nutritional advice that comes from research. Now, the big take-home message from this, before we even dive into it, is that there's really not that much research that we have about specific nutrient recommendations for thyroid disorders. So keep that in mind. This is an area that needs more research. So here were the main conclusions of this article. The authors talked about the fact that there's an overall benefit of having a high amount of fruits and vegetables for any type of a patient. including those with thyroid disorders. And as well, including things like healthy oils from sources like olive oil, healthy sources of fiber, and having enough healthy sources of fiber from things like produce or whole grains are in general going to be very beneficial for these patients. Now, what the authors concluded is that in general, a healthy diet for anyone is probably also going to be healthful for somebody with a thyroid condition. So that means including lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of healthy oils from sources like olive oil, and having lots of fibrous foods, things like legumes or whole grains. Then what is particularly interesting about this topic is this concept of avoiding foods or food sources that involve endocrine disruptors. This is when a chemical or a molecule blocks the function of a hormonal gland in our body. One thing is clear, it's important to pay attention to added chemicals, things like pesticides to food, which might function as an endocrine disruptor. Okay, but when it comes to a healthy diet, what are we specifically saying, besides just general healthy recommendations? So here's what the authors said. There are going to be nutrients like iodine, selenium, and zinc that are essential for thyroid function. This can come from different sources of nuts, so eating things like Brazil nuts or macadamia nuts, as well as having a variety of seafood, eggs, or milk products, will provide our body with good sources of these essential minerals. However, it's important to not overconsume these things. There is a possibility of having too much iodine in our body. And this is really important, especially for those of you who might be experiencing hyperthyroidism, where your thyroid gland is already super active and too active, and you're trying to bring that back down. Taking in extra supplements that might contain iodine may in fact be harmful. So this would be a really important point to talk to your doctor about. However, it's important to note that just getting iodine from food sources and not using a supplement, it's pretty hard to go overboard on the amount of iodine when it's food-based. Now here's an interesting point that is a bit controversial, and this is one where there's probably more research needed to get a definitive conclusion. The authors did highlight this concept that foods high in soy protein might want to be a little bit limited because, in general, large amounts of soy might interfere with the absorption of thyroid hormone. In general, aside from the restriction of being aware of not having too much iodine coming in from maybe a supplement form, paying attention to endocrine disruptors like harmful chemicals or pesticides that could be added to food, and not going overboard with the amount of soy protein, there aren't that many other specific recommendations from a dietary standpoint for thyroid disorders. So what you need to pay attention to here and need to really understand is that yes, we always want to optimize our health to eat as healthful of a diet as possible, having a lot of variety of vegetables and fruits and whole grains, nuts and seeds, fish, seafood, eggs, dairy, some meat. These things are going to make sure we don't have any other nutrient deficiencies, but thyroid disorders are not underlying issues of the diet unless it's specifically the type of goiter where you don't have enough iodine. So it's important to realize that if you're having a thyroid condition, fixing it with diet really isn't the way it goes. You're probably going to need either some kind of medication or some kind of assessment done by an endocrinologist to really get to the bottom of the issue. Another way of saying this is that diet alone is not necessarily going to fix a thyroid disorder. Now, aside from dietary advice, what kinds of things should someone with a thyroid condition be thinking about for optimizing their health? Well, this goes without saying, but exercise is really important. But exercising the amount that your body can tolerate is also really important. So like I mentioned before, thyroid disorders involve dysregulation, too much or too little, of our metabolic function. And when it comes to exercise, doing a lot of healthy exercise, cardiovascular type, weight training, or resistance training, often that can rev up our metabolism. So for somebody dealing with hyperthyroidism, this would be an important point to talk to your doctor about. Maybe over strenuous exercise is not a good idea, and you'd want to get further recommendations about that. However, at the same time, if you're dealing with a hypothyroid condition, you might be experiencing a lot of fatigue, which can make things like cardiovascular exercise, going for a run or a long bike ride, or a lot of swimming, really difficult on your body. So you don't want to overdo it and then cause yourself to be injured. This is where talking to your doctor is going to be really important to come up with a regimen that's tailored to your specific individual condition. But the next thing we can do to optimize our health, no matter what our condition is is to manage our stress. We know that if we are experiencing things like anxiety, whether that is because of too much thyroid hormone in our body or because of a lot of psychological stress that we're dealing with, maybe from work, from our family life, from our personal life, from other things going on in our health, that can really exacerbate any symptoms we're experiencing. So stress is not something to just dismiss and say, well, I'm just stressed out, so that's why I'm having this problem, and it's not a legitimate reason that I need to seek more healthcare. That is not true. It is a very legitimate reason. So please don't be afraid to go to your doctor and just express that you're feeling stress that is out of control or maybe hard to manage. There's probably going to be a few things you can do to start targeting that. And please don't feel bad if you are somebody who is experiencing a lot of stress. Stress is a part of life. And I think for those of us that tell ourselves we're never stressed are just not paying attention. Point number 4, for how we can help to manage our overall health if we're dealing with a thyroid condition, is to watch out for food sensitivities. So while this doesn't have direct impact on the function of our thyroid, in general, if we're eating foods that are causing us to have a lot of digestive symptoms, that might be really spiking the amount of inflammation we have in our body, the amount of pain that we feel, and the amount of physiological stress that we feel. And this is an important point because a lot of thyroid conditions, as I mentioned in the beginning, are caused by autoimmune diseases. And we know that patients who have autoimmune disease, if they have one, they're at a risk for getting another one. So if somebody is diagnosed with, for example, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, they might also be at risk for developing something like celiac disease, which is an autoimmune condition where somebody's immune system starts attacking the gluten protein inside many grains. If you're concerned that you're experiencing one of these symptoms or you're not really sure, but something's just going on in your digestive system, this is something really important to talk to a healthcare provider about. And then we have getting enough sleep. So sleep is obviously essential for so many functions of our body. It's important for our immune system, for our mood, for our nervous system, for our digestive system, for our cardiovascular system, for our brain health. I mean, you name it, sleep is probably important for every single organ system, and it is not something to dismiss. So if you're experiencing difficulty sleeping or you're not able to get enough sleep, this is an important point to bring up because sleep disorders can exacerbate lots of different types of symptoms that someone might feel, and it might make managing your thyroid condition super difficult. The classic thing is to target getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. I shy away from telling every patient that that's required because some people just need a little less and some people just need a little more. But if you find that you're sleeping 11 or 12 hours every night and that's not helping you feel refreshed, this would be a cause to ask your doctor what might be going on. There are specific things that we can do to target thyroid health with like diet and making sure we have enough minerals in our body and overall staying hydrated and managing stress and exercising and sleeping well, but that it's not necessarily going to eliminate a thyroid condition on its own with those healthy habits. But what I want to emphasize here, and I hope that this has been clear so far in the video, is that when you have a thyroid condition, we're not only thinking about your thyroid health. We want to optimize your health overall and make sure we're taking care of the rest of the body too. So if you're ready to start learning about how you can really target optimizing your health with so many different things, optimizing your diet, improving exercise, improving your mental health and wellness, you have to jump into more of my content because I go very deep on some of these topics, teaching things like healthy eating, healthy grocery shopping, how to incorporate healthier habits into your life. Jump into that content. I'll see you over there.